Welcome to a different type of video. Today we will focus on 4 wheels rather than 2. Hidden in the French city of Mulhouse, near the borders of Switzerland and Germany, stands one of the most extraordinary car museums in the world. Today it is known as the French National Automobile Museum. Inside this massive historic textile factory sits the largest car collection on Earth. More than 400 historic automobiles line the enormous halls. But the real story of this museum is not just about the cars. It is about obsession, secrecy, industrial wealth, and one of the most dramatic discoveries in automotive history. This is the story of the Schlumpf collection. The museum exists today because of 2 brothers. Hans and Fritz Schlumpf were wealthy textile industrialists who built a powerful manufacturing empire in the Mulhouse region during the 20th century. While Hans focused on running the factories, Fritz developed a deep passion for classic automobiles. But this was not an ordinary hobby. Beginning in the early 1960s, Fritz started quietly buying rare cars across Europe. Dealers and agents were sent to auctions and private collections. Often the sellers never even knew who the buyer really was. Car after car was shipped to Mulhouse. Over time, the collection grew into something extraordinary. Ferrari, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, Alfa Romeo, Maserati. But above all else, Fritz Schlumpf was obsessed with one brand: Bugatti. Without telling the public, Fritz transformed one of his abandoned textile factories into a private automotive palace. The enormous hall was redesigned to resemble a Paris boulevard. Elegant street lamps, identical to those on the Pont Alexander III in Paris, were installed between the cars. Each automobile was carefully restored by dedicated mechanics and craftsmen working full-time for the Schlumpf brothers. The cars were arranged with museum precision, standing quietly in the dimly lit hall. Hundreds of rare machines filled the space, but almost nobody knew the collection existed. Many of these cars are nearly 100 years old and are considered among the most valuable automobiles in existence. Standing next to one feels less like looking at a car and more like standing in front of a moving piece of art. But the Schlumpf collection was far more than a secret garage. Some of the most important cars in automotive history lived here. One highlight is the Bugatti Type 35, one of the most successful racing cars ever built. During the 1920s, this lightweight blue machine dominated motorsport, winning more than 2,000 races and becoming a symbol of racing excellence. Another icon is the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. With its futuristic design and famous upward opening doors, it became one of the most recognizable sports cars of the 20th century. The museum also houses legendary Ferraris from the golden era of Italian sports cars. These machines represent the birth of modern performance and racing heritage. Walking through the collection feels like traveling through the entire history of the automobile, from early pioneering machines to elegant grand tourers and legendary racing cars. But the story of this collection took a dramatic turn. In 1976, the global textile industry collapsed and the Schlumpf factories faced bankruptcy. Workers who had lost their jobs occupied the factory in protest. When they forced their way inside the locked building, they discovered something unbelievable. Hundreds of the world's rarest cars hidden inside the factory. The discovery shocked France. While the company had been struggling financially, the brothers had spent enormous fortunes collecting automobiles. The story quickly became known as the Schlumpf Affair. The brothers fled to Switzerland, and after years of legal battles, the collection was seized. Yet, instead of being sold and scattered across the world, something remarkable happened. The collection was preserved. Eventually, it became a national museum. Today, the Schlumpf collection is officially known as the Cité de l'Automobile, the French National Automobile Museum. With more than 400 vehicles and the largest Bugatti collection in the world, it is considered one of the greatest automotive museums ever created. What began as the secret obsession of one collector eventually became a treasure preserved for everyone. Inside this former textile factory lives more than a century of automotive history. Engineering masterpieces, design icons, and machines that shaped the dreams of generations. For anyone who loves cars, this place is nothing short of extraordinary. In 1962, Fritz Schlumpf learned of an extraordinary private collection owned by the wealthy American enthusiast John Shakespeare. Hidden away in the United States was the largest private collection of Bugatti cars in the world, nearly 30 of them. For Schlumpf, already obsessed with the legendary creations of Ettore Bugatti, this discovery was irresistible. He began negotiations to acquire the entire collection. After 2 years of discussions, the deal was finally completed in 1964. Fritz Schlumpf purchased all 30 Bugattis for $85,000, roughly the equivalent of around $700,000 to $900,000 today. Importantly, the Shakespeare collection also included one of the most extraordinary Bugattis ever built, a Bugatti Type 41 Royale. The presence of this legendary automobile made the purchase even more significant for Schlumpf, as the Royale was already considered one of the ultimate creations of Ettore Bugatti. Among the treasures Schlumpf would eventually own were 2 examples of the legendary Bugatti Type 41 Royale. Only 7 Royales were produced between 1927 and 1933, and just 6 survive today after the prototype was destroyed. Schlumpf even dreamed of recreating the lost Royale prototype, effectively bringing the total back to 7. Today, each surviving Bugatti Royale is considered one of the most valuable cars in the world, with estimates suggesting that a single example could fetch around $30 to $50 million if it ever came to auction. When the cars arrived in Mulhouse, they became one of the most important additions to the growing Schlumpf collection, helping transform it into what would later become the largest and most spectacular automobile collection in the world. The silver race car you see here represents the legendary Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR, one of the most advanced and dominant racing cars of its time. Built by Mercedes-Benz, the 300 SLR was nearly unbeatable on the track during the 1955 racing season. But on June 11, 1955, during the famous endurance race, tragedy struck. French driver Pierre Leva was behind the wheel of his 300 SLR when a chain reaction between several cars caused his vehicle to launch into the spectator. The magnesium body of the car ignited on impact, turning the accident into a catastrophic fire. The disaster killed 83 spectators and injured more than 120 people, making it the deadliest accident in motorsport history. The shock of the tragedy led many countries to temporarily ban motor racing, and Mercedes-Benz withdrew completely from professional racing for decades. In a later expansion of the museum, the collection was extended to include more modern racing machines. Among them are several legendary Formula One cars that represent important moments in motorsport history. One of the highlights is the Renault RS10 from 1979. This car changed Formula One forever. It was the first turbocharged car to win a Formula One race, and it helped start the turbo era that would soon dominate the sport. The museum also features more recent Formula One machinery, including a Red Bull racing car, showcasing the modern era of aerodynamics hybrid power. Alongside it stands the Jaguar R1 Formula One car, that marked Jaguar's return to Formula One in the early 2000s. These cars sit alongside early Ferraris, classic Bugattis, Lotus, and many other racing machines from different eras of motorsport history. Walking through this section, you realize how quickly racing technology has evolved, from early mechanical engineering to the incredibly complex machines we see today. And yet, even with everything shown in this video, it only captures a small part of what this museum holds. The scale of the collection is truly overwhelming. There are simply too many cars to see in a single visit, and many incredible machines have been left out of this video. But hopefully this glimpse into the collection has convinced you to come and experience the museum for yourself. Because to truly appreciate the history of the automobile, This is a place you have to see in person. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this journey through one of the most incredible automotive collections in the world. See you in the next video.